a great investment opportunity over the next 5 years, because I think it's going to be in all of the areas where investors are going to want to be putting their capital.
The stock market is constantly changing as trillions of dollars in shares are bought and sold every day, impacting thousands of companies around the world. But what if you could choose just one stock to buy over the next 5 years? Our analysts share their picks and why they are choosing these companies. Let's dive in. Welcome back, guys. Many people choose to think long-term with their investments, but we know that sticking to one stock isn't all that common. Some may do it, some think that's not the right way to invest. But Chris, Thomas, I want to talk about that today. What would be some of your key considerations if someone was trying to choose just one company to continue performing for years?
Well, I'd want to see a good in-demand business. It would need to have a good outlook for growth and for profitability. I'd want to see them have a bit of a moat to get them some kind of differentiated protection from the competition to help sustain their position long into the future. I definitely want to have positive cash flow and profits.
Yeah,
Chris, what would you look for?
Yeah, I would summarize it in, one word: growth, 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 revenue growth, earnings growth, market share growth, and to be a company that's in a sector that's going to be leading the market forward over those next 5 years.
So those are some great initial tips, but let's think about it in the world of ever-changing technology, kind of what we're seeing today, especially as artificial intelligence is expanding. Is it possible to pick just one stock that's going to continue to perform well past 5 years, or are there just too many changes and future unknowns to maybe ensure that this success could be even more long-term?
No, I think it is possible. But you're just going to want to stick with some of the blue chip mega cap winners. They have the size and the scale to adapt with the changes, but also to lead their respective industries. And so companies that are in that position really have they're just a good long-term investment in general.
Are there any? Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, Lacey. I guess my point of view would be, I just don't know why a lot of investors at this point would want to limit themselves to just one stock. I mean, you talked about disruptive industries. That would mean AI right now. And there's so many different angles that investors could play off of that. I don't know why you would necessarily want to limit yourself to just one. I agree with Thomas. It probably could be done. I just don't necessarily think that would be the best way for investors to play it.
Yes, we're not telling people that they should only invest in one stock. We're talking hypothetical today. But are there any companies out there today that many investors might feel confident that are still going to go strong, maybe a decade or even 2 decades from now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you're going to look at some of the Mag 7 names. You're going to be looking at companies like Microsoft and Amazon. Are those going away? No. Are their business models in any trouble? No. Nvidia, that may change over time, but it's still going to be a company that, at least for the next several years, is still going to be a great stock to own. So, no, there are companies that investors could look at and say are going to be fine plays for the next 10 years.
All right, well, back to our hypothetical question. What would be the one stock you would choose for the next 5 years? Guys, we want to hear your picks, but first, here's a tool that you can use to track the success of your favorite stocks over time. Want to keep your finger on the pulse of the market? Text the word YouTube to 68285. That's 68285, and get free breaking news alerts from MarketBeat for the stocks that matter most to you. Don't miss out on crucial updates. Stay informed and stay ahead. So Chris, I know you are a big fan of long-term investments. We talk about that all the time. So I'm interested to hear the one stock that you would choose to buy for the next 5 years and why it's your pick. So give it to us.
Yeah, my pick is Palantir Technologies. I don't think I'm throwing away all of my long-term investing principles by picking Palantir. I've been following the company fairly closely since it first went public in 2020. I'll get back to that in a minute, but there's a few reasons why I like Palantir over the next 5 years. And one of those was reinforced to me at my youngest daughter's graduation in high school. And I noticed that about, I would say, between 7 and 8% of her class is planning on majoring in data science. Now, that was an area that was not even available as a college major probably 10 years ago. And when you look at data science and analytics, that's exactly what Palantir does. That's what Palantir is all about. Palantir builds custom operating systems, I should say operating system software that helps organizations run more efficiently. They have Foundry and Gotham. They have Apollo, which kind of is software that brings that all together. And then they have AIP, which is their latest artificial intelligence platform that helps companies develop and launch AI applications. One analyst has said AIP could help Palantir increase their earnings by 19% annually over the next 5 years. Government revenue makes up about 53% of their business, but it was up about, let me see here, about 16% year over year in the last quarter, while still growing the commercial side at an even stronger rate. So the company is about the application of AI going forward. And I think the mistake that some people make is to think that Palantir is one of many companies, instead of realizing that Palantir kind of has a niche all of their own. They are a company all of themselves. All of that is to say that Palantir is my original but stock. You've heard me talk about these before, Lacey, and when I do my due diligence on a company, one of the things I do is I try to say, what is the best argument against my thesis? And there's been a lot of people that have tried to put out stuff over Palantir over the last several years. And it just seems to me that every single time Palantir has a tangible response to those critics. They said it was too reliant on government business, but it's grown its commercial business. And as I've said, it's growing its commercial business probably stronger than it's growing its government business. They said Palantir wasn't going to be profitable. Well, now it is profitable, and it's been profitable for several quarters, and it's projecting profitability to grow over the next 5-10 years. They said that now that it was growing on the commercial side, it was going to put its government business in jeopardy. That hasn't happened. As a matter of fact, over the past several weeks, we've just heard of Palantir getting contract after contract with the U.S. government, and those are one bid contracts. Palantir's not even there. The government's not even bidding against Palantir, which is almost unheard of. So, that's the reason why I believe that Palantir is just a great investment opportunity over the next 5 years, because I think it's going to be in all of the areas where investors are going to want to be putting their capital.
Now, if I said not just the next 5 years, but you had to be committed to the stock for the next 10 years, would this still be your pick?
Over the next 10 years? Yeah, I think it would be. I think it would be.
Thomas, do you have any thoughts on Chris going with Palantir as his stock pick? Does it shock you? Do you have any negative thoughts towards this?
It doesn't really shock me. Chris has talked about Palantir before. I like Palantir. I think it's a good pick. It's got good prospects. I think it's a little bit more of a speculative play than I would look for a single stock holding. But I think that this one is on track to become a blue chip mega cap tech company. I mean, right now it's still small, but I see this one growing into the likes of a Microsoft or a Google or an Amazon, and kind of that direction.
All right. So if Palantir isn't your pick, Thomas, what stock would you choose to go with as your choice for the next 5 years?
Well, I'm going to pick Advanced Micro Devices, right? And I picked that stock because of its position in the semiconductor market. It's was a leader, not the leading stock, but a leader in the data center market before the AI boom. So now it's pretty well established in AI. It provides some differentiated service and capabilities to NVIDIA. So we know that there's demand within the AI market. We have players like Oracle and Microsoft saying that they're going to be offering both companies chips and services, because they want to be able to provide choice to the industry. They have a great pipeline for technology coming up for the next few years. They've got their second and third generation technologies already lined up. The difference between NVIDIA and AMD right now is that AMD has some legacy businesses that are still normalizing, but those are supposed to return to growth over the next few quarters, which will help provide a boost for the long-term growth. It is a little bit more diversified. So for the long term, we've got the data center market, which is the boom in AI now, but we've also got the IoT, we've got industry, we've got PCs, the edge of computing, the edge of the AI, the edge of the cloud, and the edge of AI. That's all going to help sustain business long into the future. They've got great cash flow and a healthy balance sheet. I see this company following in the footsteps of other tech companies this year and bringing in a dividend. I think that's another long-term driver for the stock. So I'm definitely going to be in this one for 5 years.
All right, I'll ask the same question here. If we are going to go 15 years instead of 5, are you still all in on this stock?
Yeah, I think I would be.
Chris, do you have anything to add on AMD? Maybe why you think your pick might be more superior than AMD?
Well, I'm not gonna get an arm wrestling match here, Thomas. I mean, I love AMD, Lacey. We've talked about it enough. I said just a few weeks ago that if you gave me NVIDIA or the field, I'm going to take the field, and AMD is going to be one of the top picks in that field. One of the points that Thomas made that I really would hit on again is I think it has a great opportunity as the CPU and the GPU cycle kind of resets itself. That's where they're going to have an opportunity to get market share. My only hesitance to take AMD as a one stock pick for the next 5 years would be what happens as more competition is going to enter the market, because companies are going to be looking for more competitors than just AMD as an alternative to NVIDIA. But I mean, as far as saying, is AMD a great stock pick for the next 10 years? Absolutely.
All right, well, this was a fun hypothetical situation. But as we know, we always talk about diversifying your portfolio. So maybe this isn't kind of a realistic situation here. Would either of you recommend sticking with one stock for 5 years? I mean, let's think about the investors that are just getting into the market and are scared to invest in multiple stocks. Would this be a realistic approach, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a realistic approach if you go into it with the target saying, I want to build a position in this stock that's so big. And when it gets to be that big, I'll move on to another position. That's a great way for small investors to get started with these positions instead of getting too spread out. It's too hard to watch 4 or 5 or 6 stocks if you don't know as much about them as you would know if you only watch one stock.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of diversification, but I'm not a fan of diversification just for diversification. And I think that there's a lot of investors right now that if you have a 401k plan or something through an employer, you're already investing in multiple stocks anyway. But I guess that would be my option. If you were going to say you're picking one stock, I might say find an exchange traded fund, find a mutual fund that has stocks that you really like, and just put money into that fund and forget about it.
Well, thank you, Chris and Thomas, for sharing your insights with us. To our viewers, let us know down below if you would go with Chris's pick of Palantir or Thomas's pick of AMD. We want to hear from you. If you have any questions or want more information on today's picks, leave us a comment down below, or go ahead and take a look at our resources that we've also linked for you, but are also all available on our website at marketbeat.com. Thanks for watching and happy investing.